It is 6:30 p.m. I'd like to call this regular meeting of the Old Saybrook Police Commission to order. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do you have any comments from the public tonight? Let's start with the live audience. Would anyone here like to speak? Please identify yourself.
Sure. Gwen Pond, Maple Avenue. Once again, thank you again for having me to present. Just 3 quick points. I know we talked a lot about traffic safety, or I did last week, and I just want to bring that up again for subsequent emails to Chief Spera and Fortuna. A lot of he said, she said. It's tough to pin down what's going on, what's going to happen. So I so strongly again want to suggest that we look at having some transparency for the what's and when's of traffic safety initiatives. And I would so highly recommend we look at the town of Sudbury, Massachusetts, a traffic safety coordinating committee. I'll leave this information for your folks here. I also want to request that the meeting notes at least contain the topic mentioned in public comment rather than just public comment. And thirdly, a lot of discussion on your public comment bylaws. And I just did a quick search. You probably all have been doing a lot of research on this. I couldn't find anybody who had anything other than a limitation of the time noticed. I'm talking Detroit and Seattle. So I'm just going to throw that out. I know it was a great discussion, but in terms of limiting what is said, how things are said, I think we want to look kind of a little bit outside of our place and consult with what other folks are saying is okay to be saying. And that's all. Let me leave the town of Sudbury as a reference. Again, I'm Gwen Pons, and I have way too many emails and it was a big long list from Old Saybrook neighbors about some other suggestions for traffic safety stuff. I'd love to compile them. I don't have a lot of time. I don't want to do a lot of emails, but if somebody would want to be a single point of contact, I'd be happy to get that together.
Send them over to me.
You want them?
I'm the point of contact. Send them to me.
Don't do so.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Live audience. Anybody else? Please identify yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Frank Keeney, 41 Pettipog Avenue. Mr. Chairman, thank you and good evening, and thanks for giving me the time to address the members of the Old Saybrook Police Commission. And hopefully, through the magic of technology, a good number of my fellow Old Saybrook residents. I'm here tonight to simply say thank you to the Old Saybrook Ambulance Association, the Old Saybrook Volunteer Fire Department, the Old Saybrook Police Department, and especially Chief Spero. Yesterday, these 3 local organizations conducted 4 hands-only CPR clinics in the Old Saybrook High School gym. My wife Beverly and I attended the first session. It began at noon sharp to a full house. The chief did a terrific job instructing the session that we attended. There were first responders near every station to ensure that we were using the methods that we were being taught the correct way.
Look up later.
Making sure someone is in distress, not just taking a nap, finding signs of breathing and pulse, learning to give chest compressions to the Bee Gees' Staying Alive. Fortunately, I'm old enough to remember Saturday Night Fever, and how to use an automated external defibrillator or AED safely were all part of the hour-long program. Someday, someone who was in that room yesterday will be called upon to respond to an emergency. Someone in distress will need their help on the spot. Because our first responders took their personal time to organize and execute this program, especially on a Sunday, and residents took advantage of the opportunity, we're smarter and better prepared to help someone in trouble and quite possibly save a life. Again, thank you so much. This is one of the reasons why I love living in this town. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the live audience wishing to make a comment? In the virtual audience, anyone who would like to make a comment, please raise your hand. Do we see any, Larry?
No, we do not.
Seeing none, we'll move on to the next order of business. Discussion and possible action on the meeting minutes for our regular meeting, February 27, 2023.
I move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Any correct alterations?
You want to make any amendments for a public comment? Ms. Pyron?
We will get to that. I think.
Okay, well, we're approving the past minutes and she was asking about the past minutes being altered.
Oh, I thought she was referring to just a future.
Yes, I think it was more a future thing than
Okay.
these current minutes.
Well, that was discussion,
It
so
was.
that's why I'm bringing it up.
No, but if
It's
you
been
think,
raised before,
if you
so,
think that it should be thorough.
Oh, we're all set.
okay, thank you, Paul.
If there's nothing else, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Chief Executive Reports.
Great. Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. As normal, you have received the financial documents in your packets, and they have also been posted online. Did you get yours? I noticed your packet was still at the station. You just print everything out. Okay. So if there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to entertain them. Just a couple quick things I do want to point out, as I've been mentioning for lots of months in a row now, that the extra personnel item has obviously run into the red because we're backfilling vacant shift, whereas the salary line item remains in the black. And despite some overruns in some different categories, I think that the way we're managing the budget will yield success come June 30th if there's no surprises that we don't know about yet.
Those two items are pretty much offsetting.
Yeah, I mean, they do their best to offset. I mean, it's straight time versus overtime, right? So it's not an exact offset. But I think that the entire budget will wind up in the black. And there's no questions. I can go right on to the 24 budget process.
Just, the legal line item, and I only raise this because we're on to the 24 budget process. But again, we budgeted 7,000 for the following year. And we're way over that at this point now. And in previous years, we have been over that as well. So I'm wondering if that necessitates a change in the 24 budget.
I hope not. I mean, quite frankly, a lot of this has to do with some personnel issues and the commission. And I hope that things settle down in the next year and that we're not such a litigious type state where we're calling upon attorneys on both sides to do things. As you know, one of my executive goals is for us to work together better. And I think that would negate some additional legal costs.
I think though that 7,000 might just be an unreasonable figure generally.
Just as a plug number.
Yeah.
So that's all. That was my comment.
Yeah, I mean, we try to obviously hold expenses as close as we can to the budget and line items, but you know, the budget process is the time to obviously increase that line item. We're past that mark.
Yeah.
So maybe that's something that we consider next year to see how we do in fiscal year 24, at least the first half of it, to see if we're more on trend with that or not. Yeah, next year should be a contract negotiation year for the police. So a majority of those legal funds will come out of the selectmen's personnel budget. Anything else on the fiscal year 23?
Anything on the off budgets that you?
No, that was following fiscal year 24, but we can do that right now.
No, I'm just asking if you had anything to add to the off budgets.
No, but it was not next on the agenda. That's why I didn't hit it yet.
Oh,
But we can certainly talk about it now. It's all money. So any questions on the off budget accounts?
No.
No, you'll notice that in the insurance line item, the monies that I anticipated from the insurance company coming are there now, and therefore that's no longer running in the red. So back to fiscal year 24. Only thing I can report on is the first selectman, Board of Selectmen unanimously endorsed the budget, the revised budget that the police commission submitted to the Board of Selectmen. That's now in front of the Board of Finance. And from what I understand, there'll be a vote on the budget next week sometime.
Can I ask if all of that gentleman's questions, Carlson's questions were answered?
So I've offered to meet with him.
Okay.
He's choosing not to collaborate and he wants to do business in a way that I'm not comfortable with. So he is more than welcome at any time to make an appointment to come in and sit with me and we can discuss his questions.
What, does he want, like the answers in writing or?
Yeah, I'm not really sure why he wants the answers in writing. It seems to be like some sort of setup gotcha game, which I don't participate in. So like I made very, very clear in an email to him that was carbon copy to the chairman. He's more than willing to come in and meet with me. I've made offers for him to come in and meet with me prior to his Board of Finance meeting. He was unavailable. He told me that he'd be available after the meeting and he has yet to contact me and I told him that I would be available. So ball's in his court.
Okay,
But I believe he has the information he needs.
okay,
You know, so if you're a member of the Board of Finance, here's what you know. You know that the police commission unanimously voted the budget, passed the budget. You know that the police commission then revised its budget when we had an unexpected personnel change. And you know that the Board of Selectmen unanimously endorsed the budget. Those are two decent bodies in local government that are endorsing the police operating budget. And I think that the presentation that I did in front of 3 boards and commissions, I think the written material that's been posted on the web and that he is also in personal possession of, as are all Board of Finance members, I think there's a lot of detail there. And I think all the questions can be easily found.
would you be, again, I really don't know any background to any of this, but, would you be opposed, like, if Chubb went with Carlson to meet you? I mean, have a partner there?
I don't need a partner.
No, for Carl.
Yeah, I don't need a babysitter. I'm
No.
more than happy to meet with the gentleman. He's
Yeah.
choosing not to meet with me.
Okay, but I meant if he wanted somebody else there.
He can bring whoever he wants.
Okay.
Yeah.
Again, well, again, I don't,
I think he just wants his question answered.
well, public and email is not public either, right?
And
So I don't
demanding a written response in an email is certainly not public.
I think he's gonna then present it to the Board of Finance, would be my guess.
I think he had his questions answered by the finance director at the last meeting.
Yeah, I thought some of his questions were valid, though. For someone on the Board of Finance side, I would say that there were probably at least 50% of them that were. And I think if I were a Board of Finance member, I would want the courtesy of the response.
It's amazing you all got that email.
Well, it was forwarded to us.
I think he, was it like on a,
I didn't forward it to you. so
no, but I
someone-
think it was on
someone
the,
forwarded it.
like,
I did.
the
And
police.
you didn't get it. So it sounds like maybe just the,
No,
I'm not
I
enrolled
don't
in
think so.
Democrats
I think
got it.
was-
No, I
it was
didn't
all
forward
of
it.
us.
Fine. Well, anyways,
I thought
Mr.
it was on the
Carlson's more than
police
welcome to schedule a meeting with me and we can discuss the budget in great detail.
So, may I ask a question, as far as the Board of Finance is concerned, then our budget's like done, it's not going up again, but being brought up again, or?
So remember our budget, and you know this best, being a former member of the Board of Selectmen, our budget is part of the municipal budget.
Yeah, I know that.
So the Board of Selectmen has adopted a municipal budget that they've presented to the Board of Selectmen that there's been a public hearing on. So it's not the police department versus a town budget versus the Board of Education budget. The police department budget is part of the municipal budget that was unanimously endorsed by the Board of Selectmen and is now sitting with the Board of Finance.
And unanimously endorsed by this committee.
Twice. Right, so I think that carries weight.
It carries weight. The only issue in my mind is, are there questions that need to be or could usefully be more fully explained? And I think the answer to that's yes. I think that I could meet with Bruce and give him my take.
Well, don't you guys have breakfast like every Friday
No,
or every
No,
other Friday? I mean,
but-
you guys social, I mean, so you could answer those questions. You can
I
ask
don't know
me
where
every
your
time.
information comes from, but we don't have breakfast on any Friday,
Okay,
or any other meal.
but you two certainly can talk on the phone whenever
Of
you
course we
want.
can.
Yeah,
Of course, and we have.
and there you go.
But
And
he's
so-
requesting information from you.
And he can come and meet with me, just like any citizen can.
I think that
I
if,
think-
if somebody else were to have written you, like if, let's say. Anybody, Carl emailed you, would you email him back those answers?
The first selectman?
Yeah,
Different stature.
okay.
So Bruce is a member of the Board of
Frank
Finance.
Keeney, for instance, if he emailed you, would you,
I would say you're more than welcome to come in and meet with me.
you would just email him back the answers?
No. I believe in collaborating in person.
And I do think he sent it to the police commission as a whole, Carl. I'm gonna just double check that, by the way.
Okay, I think we've heard enough on that one. May we move on to personnel matters?
Sure. Were there any other questions on off budget? Jill asked me if I had any questions about that, and then we got into a discussion about Mr. Carlson.
Okay.
Good? Everyone good? Okay. Any other questions on the fiscal year 24 budget process? Excellent. So personnel matters, please report that Patrolman Incentardi is off of field training. So he is now filling one of our vacant slots in the schedule, which is fantastic. We still remain with 3 police officers at the police academy. And custodian Hanley remains on his unpaid leave of absence. If there's no questions, I can go on to our professional development update.
With the 3 people of the academy, where does that leave us with the number of? Only?
We have 2 vacancies right now.
After the 3 are in service?
Correct.
So how many police do we actually have? From what Chuck just asked, I got a little confused.
Sure. So we have 25 full-time positions. That includes the captain and myself.
That's what we budget. Yeah.
That's what we have. That's our authorized force, right?
Okay.
And so 3 people of the 25 are in the police academy,
Right.
and there are 2 current vacancies that do not have names associated with them.
Okay.
We hope to fill that soon.
Now, does that include like the SROs?
Does not. That's just the full-time
That's a
position.
question, yeah, okay. How many part-time positions do we have?
So we have our 3 SROs,
Okay,
and then we have 3 additional per diem employees.
okay, and are those the, like traffic guards?
No, so those
Crossing
are
guards.
Patrolman Mulvihill, Patrolman Chiappo, Patrolman Tanner. So they were, I'm sorry, for Patrolman Vanderhorst now. Those are the folks that were, help us out with parades or
Okay.
take an extra road job or that type of thing, but those aren't folks actually working shifts.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. All right, professional development.
Great, thank you. So we have a lot to report this month, so it's great. Patrolman Mora and Patrolman Simpson attended the Advanced Roadside Impaired Driving Certification course, so we're happy they're done with that course. Patrolman Cruz attended and got certified in basic interview and interrogation. Sergeant Mikowski and Detective First Class Williams attended a course entitled Supervision, Leadership, and Mentoring. Let's see here. Patrolman Millardo and Captain DePerry attended a class entitled Building a State Assessment. So they learned how to use the software that we'll be using when we go through Tier 1 accreditation this year. Patrolman Inzatardi, as the end of his FTO, became a certified emergency medical responder, which is a requirement, but we're happy that he is successfully through that course. And then all sworn employees, as some of you know, participated in the virtual reality de-escalation training that was offered by our insurance company, Kerma. Again, it was a free resource that was brought to us for the 5th department in the state to use that resource. And I think that training was extremely successful. That's it for professional development.
Let me just add, having participated in that as a first-time observer and ultimately participant, it was eye-opening to me how invaluable that is. I had prepared to say something on a lighter note, but in light of today's events in Nashville, I didn't think it appropriate to give that.
Plus, I'm not sure how much we can say about that, but
Say whatever you want to say.
thank you for that. That was a great experience. Can I describe it or?
Do whatever you want.
Okay, so as commission members, we were invited to watch the police department get training or, just their biannual training. And then when we got there, we found out that we could participate. And basically it was us doing scenes of things that could happen, with a gun, with a fake gun, on a screen. And the situations were so real that I can personally tell you that I got so involved in trying to talk a guy throwing his baby over a bridge, or somebody shooting their wife in the head with the baby behind them, or, somebody taking their own life, or somebody stealing a car. The situations were so real that I don't know who to thank for giving us that chance, but also the officers, that training. It was essential. It was essential, and I've never held a gun, let alone, a fake one, Nerf guns, but, this one, it was overwhelming. And it was a really good experience. I hope I'm explaining myself as best as I can, but it was mind blowing.
It involved a lot of adrenaline.
Yes.
Well, but even beyond just, the individual doing, what I found very amazing and helpful was the explanations afterwards that you gave about some of the scenes and what would have been the appropriate responses and been a little more effective. And I just thought that overall, if we were getting this exposure, imagine the professional development that our officers are seeing. It was certainly a very good experience.
Good. Well, I'm glad, Carol, you also
Right,
participated.
yes, we learned I'll never be a policeman.
Yes, we did. I told you that before you picked up the gun, but,
I've
Yeah.
never held a gun and I couldn't shoot the side of a barn, I didn't do too much.
I think it's important to note though that, emotions can get in the way of a lot of quick thinking decisions. And for me, yes, I kept saying NCIS, I watched Blue Bloods, that was my training. Okay. But for these officers, it's good to have the training because they can always fall back on that and or follow it. So their emotions can literally be taken out of the equation as long as they know the protocol. And for me, that's huge. Go ahead, Chief. Sorry, I interrupted you.
no, listen, I think the reason why I invited you there is I think it's important for a couple reasons. One, I think it's important for you to be able to tell your constituents that we're participating in contemporary de-escalation training, right? And so you saw in many of those scenarios that it was the power of the voice rather than the power of the weapon that really dictated whether the situation escalated or de-escalated and what the end result. You also saw scenarios where there had to be split-second decisions. There was not time to Monday morning quarterback it, talk to 7 pundits on CNN to relive the situation, to decide what the police officer could do. And I think the third thing that, I'm sure you recognized is that you sit here the 4th Monday of every month, and sometimes we get into the weeds on stuff. Without having the training that we have in law enforcement, some of the decisions that you may think you have to make or you want to make is difficult without that training. And so the more I can expose the notion through workshops or through actual glimpses of our professional development of what it actually takes to be a police officer, what goes into our training, what our decision-making tree must be like when we're on calls for service, I think it's important for you to consider when you're talking about things in the budget or personnel or what does it take? And so until you've walked in our shoes, it's hard to judge what we've done in our shoes, which is why it's important to be exposed to that.
Couldn't agree more.
Oh, can I ask a question that's
Of course.
like under professional development or not? We haven't heard anything about the accreditation in a while, and you mentioned 2 people took a course in it. When are we going to get an update?
So it's one of my executive goals, so you'll get an update on that, I suppose, that when I give you a briefing or an update on where I am with my executive goals, but we're progressing nicely.
What's the deadline for the tier 1
October-ish.
of this year?
Remember, it's my goal this year, so one of my goals.
Yeah, but I know there's clocks ticking, and I just wondered where we were, what was happening. Perhaps next month we could talk about that.
Rest assured, I am aware of all clocks that are ticking.
But do you think we could have an update for next meeting? Would that be?
I mean, the
possible?
update is we're working on it. There's no other update than that.
Okay.
Okay, I guess a lot of us aren't sure what, the steps are,
The steps are as we prepare and then we get evaluated.
as what needs to be done in tier 1, that's all I'm saying, but. If I need to Google it.
So you want a presentation on what tier one accreditation is?
Presentation, but just like what needs to be done in tier one.
So tier
Yeah.
one, tier two, and tier three are all just different standards that must be met by the
Mhm.
organization.
Okay, so what needs to be done in tier one?
Lots of different standards. I mean, it encompasses the entire range of a police department. Everything from having a rule and regulation about having an oath of office, to having portable radios, to having policies and procedures and examples of how we handle arrestees. And it's all encompassed.
So would it be
Let me ask
unfair to ask if like there's 10 things to be done that we could have like okay, so 7 out of 10 have been done. If it's unfair to ask that.
Yeah, I
then
don't think
that's
that would
okay.
be appropriate. I think this is an overall goal, and when we satisfy the goal, we'll let you know we've satisfied it.
Is there an online source that lays out the?
I can give you a
elements?
copy of the standards,
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
but it would be nothing that we would be sharing. Like you wouldn't say, can I see the draft standard 4.2.8? My response would be no, not yet. It's a draft and we're working on it.
Right. Okay.
So anybody who would be interested on the commission, at least, and maybe even members of the public could swing by, but it's not online.
It might be on the post website. Yeah, I would think it is. Yeah, I would think it is. But I can give you the link. I can send out the link. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. I can
Yeah.
certainly send out the link to the standards of tier one.
We're trying to route you along. It's not like we're trying to, hold you accountable for those.
You're trying to do what?
We're trying to like route you like along, not hold you accountable.
I don't get that sense sometimes. at
I'm
these
sorry,
meetings.
I'm trying.
Yeah,
I'm
I don't hear a
trying.
lot of, yeah, rah, rah, root and support.
Okay, well, that's where I'm coming from. with this. Okay, next.
All right, well, I'll stop.
Activity report.
Activity report is in your packets. Any questions?
Things seem to be proceeding. Okay, and we heard from Mr. Keeney about the hands-on CPR events. From your perspective?
Yeah, so we have 3 events. One was yesterday. We had about 130, 140 participants, which is way more than I anticipated, 4 different sessions. So really happy with that and grateful for the turnout of the Old Saybrook Ambulance Association folks and a couple folks from the fire department and the captain and Jen from the police department to assist. On April 6th, we're participating in Wellness Day at the middle school, which is something that we've done pre-COVID. So we're happy to be back doing that, where every single middle school student will get training in hands-only CPR, 1 grade at a time. So 80 to 90 to 100 middle school students in the gym with me at a time. Should be an exciting day. And then later that afternoon, we're offering hands-only CPR training to all municipal employees. And the first selectman has authorized the closure of municipal offices to allow the employees to attend the event.
This is Wednesday?
April 6th.
Do you anticipate doing another one of these segments?
Yeah, we're gonna do a survey with our participants to see if that should be like an annual or a biannual event. As you can imagine, a lot of work, goes into something like this. It's the first ever community one that we've ever done in the town of Old Saybrook. So that was really, really nice to see. Traditionally, we were just doing it in the schools. But for people not signing up and just showing up and offering it, I was very, very happy with that. So 130, 140 more community lifesavers is important. I said to each session that I've been responding to medical emergencies, first with the Ambulance Association, since the age of 15. And when I walk into an emergency scene and someone's unconscious, not breathing, and doesn't have a pulse, and there's citizen CPR in progress, I know that that person has a tremendous chance of living. But when I walk in and I see people pointing to the person who needs assistance, the outcome is not always as great as we would hope. So very important event, and I want to thank everyone that came out to learn CPR, because it's extremely important. No one knows when that split second is going to happen and the person in front of you, goes into sudden cardiac arrest.
Can I just ask one question? I literally haven't. So the hands only CPR, I don't know when that was changed. And I get it. But if someone was drowning, would it still be only hands only?
Yes, in fact, we had a
For
situation,
everything in the world, it's hands only.
so we had a situation in Saybrook many, many years ago.
Yeah.
Where I might get the ages wrong, but a 12-year-old had learned hands-only CPR from us at the middle school wellness day. And there was a drowning where he was, and he saved someone younger than him
Oh my God.
using the skills that we had taught. So we know it works. We know it's important.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, discussion and action to approve the new public comment and procedure bylaw as amended on February 27th. And I entertain a motion.
So moved.
In a second.
Oh, I will second this.
Is there any further discussion after the lengthy discussion we had at our last meeting?
No, but I do like, the woman, Jean. Yeah,
Gwen.
Gwen, sorry. Gwen's, proposal, just putting in the minutes, like even if it's just traffic as the topic, I like that. Is that part of this public comment or no?
Is
No.
no, it's
No?
not.
Okay. Okay,
But kind of something that we can just talk with our recording clerk about.
okay.
Any other, no other discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
I,
Any opposed? Unanimous.
I would actually like to just maybe, not right now, but at some point, in the very brief, something to be able to doing exactly that, putting it in the minutes. I think it's a little bit more involved in this talk, Jen, about it. That's my feeling.
Whatever.
yeah, I think you have to decide, and various commissions have decided different methods. This commission has decided a couple different methods already, right? On what the level of detail should be. So if you talk to Tom Hennick at FOI, right, it could just simply be motions. And we've always asked for a little bit more than that, but we know that we don't want a transcript of the meeting, especially when the meeting is archived on video and the minutes represent where you can go. So if you're interested in watching public comment
You can just.
on the minutes, there's that time date stamp, right? Am I correct on that? I believe
Yes.
right? There's a time date. So you could forward to that section and just listen to public comment if you
Okay.
want. So we don't have a stenographer. We have a recording clerk. You've been in that position yourself. And so, I think that the minutes are what the minutes are. I think the level of detail, especially now that we're video and audio taping, I don't think you want two different detailed records.
Well, I think that's why we have to come to a meeting of the minds on this. Some speakers just talk about one topic, some speakers talk about several topics.
Right.
So it becomes, what do you do with it? And it's simply more than just saying, sure, let's do it.
I agree.
I also knew that the times were in there, but it didn't click when I did it. So, I mean, those are good enough for me. However, if others want.
Larry, how long are we keeping the videos?
1 year. More or less. Somewhere around 13.
13 months.
It's guaranteed for a year. It's somewhere around 13 months by the time the paperwork goes through and happens.
Thank you.
We have a motion.
Sorry,
We have a motion on the table, so.
No, we voted.
No, we voted.
Did we vote?
we voted, yeah. That was unanimous.
Number 5.
Okay, next item, report of the subcommittee to develop a proposed bylaw concerning responsibilities for the community.
Okay, so at the last regular meeting, as everyone knows, the commission voted to form an ad hoc committee to possibly craft an expanded responsibility of commissioners bylaw using the old Saybrook BOE Series 9000 policy called Code of Conduct for board members. We were going to use that as a model. This bylaw will possibly replace the current investigation of personnel-related matters. The commission put together a committee consisting of myself, Chairman Wilcox, and Commissioner Maselli, and is scheduled to meet here at Town Hall at 6:30 on April 6th. I had put together some ideas for this expanded version, which will be discussed at the meeting. And I went, beyond just looking at old Saybrook's Board of Ed policy, I've looked at several other BOEs in Connecticut and also the Connecticut Association of Boards of Education policy on this. It'll be an in-person meeting only, but it will be recorded. And thank you to the chief for setting up the meeting, along with Jen and Larry for attending that meeting. That's very important.
Have you guys looked into any policing journals?
I have not, no. No, I could be that as the next.
No, I was just wondering,
But the direction from this group was to take a look at the BOEs to see what our policy for the 9,000 series was.
And the thinking behind that was that the boards of education command considerable legal resources to help them out with this.
Well, I'll look at police commissions.
no, I was just wondering,
I do think it's important to look at other police commissions, though. If we
sorry?
can, it is important to look at other police commissions, so.
If they have a policy that's
Right.
readily available.
Yeah, I have looked around myself and surprisingly, very few police departments seem to have, or police commissions seem to have very active or complete websites. Ours has a lot more than most.
Yeah.
The next item, discussion concerning the proposed citizen complaint bylaw. Let me take this. I had expected that tonight we'd have a full and possibly difficult discussion on the subject of the proposed bylaw amendment concerning citizen complaints, preparatory to referring it to our April meeting for final vote, up or down. When I met with the chief this past Wednesday to put the agenda for tonight's meeting together, that was in my draft. The chief asked me not to do that for two reasons. One, that Mr. Maselli could not be here tonight, and the chief's view was that the commissioners should have the benefit of all views before acting on a bylaw amendment. The second was that the chief viewed the proposed bylaw, if adopted, as effecting a change in his working conditions and therefore as something involving personnel, a permissible subject for treatment in executive session, which he requested we do. In addition, viewing this as affecting his employment, he asked for more time so we could consult counsel before having that discussion with the commission. While it is not at all clear to me that a commission bylaw, especially this one, affects a change in the terms of the chief's employment, out of respect for the chief's concerns, I agreed to defer any detailed discussion among the commissioners until we heard from the chief. However, I also suggested to the chief, and he agreed, that we didn't need to wait until the next regular meeting. The chief agreed that our executive session to hear from him can occur at a special meeting before April 24th, so that we can take action at that regular meeting. With that said, I invite a motion to table this agenda item.
Okay, before we do that, can I just make sure that I'm clear on some of the details of this? So whether or not there's changes, we'll be bringing this to the agenda at the April 24th, expecting for a vote.
For discussion and possible action, and the possible action, if there is the consensus that we want to move forward this way, would be then to move it to the May meeting for a final vote. Carol.
That confuses me, because if we're gonna have, and I believe we should have a special meeting within, say, the next 3 weeks, to discuss the proposed citizen complaint bylaw, then,
No, it's to hear from the chief
so,
and discuss among ourselves how we feel about what the chief has brought to us.
so then that does mean that in April, you're proposing we discuss, and in May we vote. I mean, we've been
What we've
delaying
been-
and delaying.
What we've been doing with each of these, and I haven't thought it was required, but the consensus seems to have been that this is how we best proceed. That we have a discussion, we try to come to a consensus. When we get to a consensus, we move it to the next meeting for an up or down vote. And at that, there won't be any word changes. We had to have a whole another meeting because of one word change last time. So I'm trying to work with everybody here, listen to everybody, give everybody a chance to have their say and, you know, then decide.
I support this, giving the chief the opportunity to have a conversation with us in executive session. I do support that. I just wanted to make sure that we had some clarity on how it would move
Sure.
from there.
Carol?
I don't know, I still don't understand why we can't hear from you and have our discussion all at the same time as the only agenda item in a special meeting. So then we
Because-
just move it to April.
Because bylaws have to be acted upon at a regular meeting. And I think that means,
We're not voting on it, we're discussing it.
that was my take, but the sense that everybody had for 3 months now, as I understand it, was we would discuss it and try to arrive at a consensus and then move it to the next meeting for final vote.
I think you
So-
are saying the same thing.
So, okay, just for my mind, so special meeting, we discuss it, all that good stuff.
We hear from the chief and we discuss how we react to the chief.
Then regular meeting, we can discuss it and vote on it.
We could, at the regular meeting in April,
Oh,
we would have the kind of discussion that we had on the other
mhm. So we can't,
bylaw amendments that we
I
move
say,
forward.
so we can't like include special meeting as,
I would think we could, but that's not the way we've chosen to proceed, and I thought it would be smoothest just to continue proceeding the way we
I
have.
agree. So, yeah. Okay, well, it is what it is.
It's more transparent
100%.
once the discussion is made so that people from the audience or town people, our constituents can weigh in at the next meeting before the vote. They have time to hear what the proposal is and come up with any kind of comments which could be used at the meeting before the vote.
So here's what's gonna happen. We're gonna have a special meeting. We're gonna hash everything out again. Then in April, to Carl's point, we're gonna have a read through and then so the public can know, and then in May vote on it.
Right,
Yep. It is what it is, but it's going, we're moving along. That's the point, is that,
At a snail's pace.
well, I'd rather be at a snail's than a stop,
We have beat this to death.
and we're
We
gonna
were
keep
giving
eating.
handouts of what the chief thought things should be. Remember when Captain DePere got up and handed all the handouts out? I mean.
Yeah, but not on this one. We haven't heard.
This
This
one we
one's
haven't-
never been
We
discussed in
haven't even
public,
brought
only
this
in
up
your
in public.
office.
We haven't
Never in
talked
public.
about this as 7 of us at all. And I know it's not how you would want it, but we're moving along, and that is more than I can say about a bunch of
So,
them.
okay, so then to that point then, so we're gonna have yet another, I'm not at a meeting excuse, like, we can't keep doing that depending on who's gonna be here. If I say I'm not gonna be here, are we gonna not do something? I don't think so.
I mean, potentially, your opinion is,
Yes, but we're not doing this
Valuable.
because Joe's not here.
No, I see.
But Joe's and the chief, I understand the two parts of it,
Yes.
but I don't wanna use that as an excuse of who's in attendance.
you'll notice in my statement, I didn't say that I agreed.
Okay, thank you.
The thing of it is, Mr. Maselli, he contributes significantly to our discussion in a very substantial way. But you're right, it shouldn't be dependent upon who's sitting here at the table.
No, we can't be hostage.
either way, we're moving along, we're moving, that's the point, even if it is at a snail's pace, it's moving.
Okay, so you need a motion to table.
Yes,
I will make that motion.
is there a second?
Second,
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Yay. I already know I'm outvoted, so it doesn't matter.
Next item is correspondence. I have none that has not already been shared.
oh. Anything else?
No.
Comments from the public? Yes,
Hi,
please step forward, identify yourself.
My name's Linda Mahal. I'm a resident of Old Saybrook, and I don't have the details tonight, but I believe since you passed this public comment, that my comment is okay. I've read in the past year about a couple of things that the department did that I was very grateful for that I'd like to mention. And I don't know the names of the officers involved, but there was an investigation regarding an elderly man who was being scammed, you know, and hundreds of thousands of dollars were taken from him. And it's my understanding that Old Saybrook Police Department investigated and actually found the people who were responsible for cheating this man out of his money, and were able to have him extradited to Connecticut. So I just want to say that's exactly the kind of news I like to read about. So thank you to the chief and the department, the detective, whoever was involved in that, and the taxpayers for the resources that they dedicate to protecting, you know, I mean, obviously this happened to this man, but now, you know, those people are stopped in their tracks, hopefully, so I'm very grateful for that. And then the other thing is, I really liked, the nature of the discussion that I saw tonight. I've been here sometimes when it's quite contentious, but I felt that people worked really hard, to be courteous, even when they didn't agree. And so I'd like to commend all of you for that. I know that there are a wide range of views about different topics, in the department, in the commission, within the commission, and so forth. But to the extent that all of you can, you know, sort of keep your personal emotions in check, I think it really lends credibility to both sides, or three sides, or however many sides there are. And it gives me more confidence as a citizen that things are working well in this department, and it gives more authority to the department as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comment in the live audience?
Not to put him on the spot, but I see the chairman of the Board of Finance here, who is actually the Police Commission liaison from the Board of Finance to the Police Commission. And Paul, before you came, there was a lot of discussion about Mr. Carlson's email and whether or not I appropriately addressed all the questions or anything. Is there anything that you'd like to mention as chairman of the Board of Finance? I know you were copied on that email.
Yeah, I received a copy of it, and at our meeting last week, Leanne handled most of them. And I saw your responses back, and I feel that everything, I haven't had any requests from any commission members for any follow-up.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So I think that kind of puts that to,
Yeah, I was just asking for an update. So.
yeah, there you go.
No concern.
If there is anyone in the virtual audience who would like to comment, please raise your hand. Larry?
Nothing.
Okay, comments from the chief of police?
Yeah, a couple just quick things. 2 meetings I want to let you know that I had. I started up again meetings that I intend to have quarterly with our union leadership. So take the union leadership from the dispatch union, the union leadership from the police union, put them together in the same room with me and just have good open conversation. Obviously, open door policy, open cell phone policy, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But to formally get the 2 heads of the unions together with me in a room is beneficial sometimes. It's actually good for the 2 union presidents to talk union things, let alone the 3 of us in the room. So we had that meeting that was very, very beneficial. All agreed that we'll try to do that quarterly. Had another leadership team meeting. Subject to this leadership team meeting, as the subject of many of our team meetings, is customer service. And for the past several months, I've been kind of hinting to the department leaders that I wasn't happy with the timeliness or lack of timeliness of written reports. So you get in a car accident, your house is burned, you need a written report. And if police officers are not staying time on task and getting those done in a efficient and effective manner, it's not providing good customer service. So I did a workshop with the sergeants where I created a couple different buckets of time and presented different types of calls. And together as a group, we decided which types of reports would be due when. So we're rolling that out with our patrolmen. Some have no problem with that. They've been meeting that since the beginning of time. And some have some, trouble meeting deadlines. So we're going to be working with those folks as well.
Is the next gen database helpful in that?
It's extremely helpful with that. Yes.
So,
Even more helpful with the next thing. So I'm a firm believer in a full day's work for a full day's pay, especially when the pay is coming from the taxpayer. And the good news is 90% of our personnel really adhere to that theory and do very, very well. But the data that I am looking at does highlight those that are really not participating in the workload that I desire, that the other employers are doing. So we are going to work with those employees to make sure that they rise to standard or obviously higher than just achieving minimum standard to make sure that everyone on the force is giving a full day's work for a full day of taxpayer pay. So that may create some grumblings, but again, it's my job to make sure that employees are doing their job, that they're meeting workplace standards and adhering to workplace directives, and they're doing so in a professional manner. So pleased to report that. Finally, I figured I'd give the commission a quick update on the results of our It's Time to Do Your Duty campaign. First of all, in the war of the car dealerships, Saybrook Ford emerged as the winner just by a little bit. Ford collected 2,630 diapers and 5,730 wipes. In total, the department collected 25,921 diapers, 37,100 wipes. So about half of that went right to a social services help day right here in Old Saybrook. And then the other half went to the diaper bank, which Old Saybrook makes withdrawals from whenever they have their social services help day. So really happy that the agency was able to do that again. But one of the things we discussed in my leadership team meeting is we were going to stop putting lipstick on the pig. And so we will tell the truth on who helps with these events and who doesn't. And so while we do everything as one agency, we need everyone to contribute to the community events. And it's up to all of us who are in public service, not just to do the enforcement role or not just to help people while we're getting paid to do it, but to live our lives as an example and contribute to great causes like this campaign. So really happy with our results this year and looking forward to doing it again next year. And that's all I have.
thank you. Any comments from commissioners? Carol?
Yeah, I'm not feeling as well as I might, so, I just have a couple of things. Congratulations on the diaper drive.
Thank you.
I think it's great that all the car dealers involved in that. And I'm glad that the CPR hands-on did so well. I was hoping it would. Didn't so well yesterday either. So, congratulations on that.
I hope you feel better.
Me too.
Jill?
I'm good, thank you.
There's a most
So the only thing I do want to say, it's not really a personal thing, but, my street is, there has been a lot of road work, so I'm sure that, slows cars down, but I am bringing up, like, for instance, Ingham Hill. We gotta get a patrol, something stationed there at some point, just to even just watch the cars. I mean, you can just sit there and just, even if they're not tagging them or whatever it is. I know that I told you my aunt volunteered, but if we could just do something someday, just to get that going.
Yeah, so we had a discussion in our leadership team meeting about my leadership team members, subordinates, proactive motor vehicle activity. And I explained to them that proactive motor vehicle activity, as I've explained to the commission during budget presentations, is so important for our community for a variety of reasons. So number one, proactive motor vehicle activity slows traffic down, right? So it makes our roadways safer for people traveling by car, and it certainly makes our sidewalks safer for people who are walking. We're coming into spring season, not that we had a terrible winter, which is great. But we got a lot of people walking, and so cars need to start slowing down. Stop signs need to be adhered to. Cell phones need to go hands-free. So it's important that our folks get out and do that work. Secondly, it creates omnipresence. And so if you're someone who wants to be doing something bad in Old Saybrook, and you arrive in town and you see the flashing lights of a patrol car on the side of the road, you're less likely to stay in that community to commit your crime. Now, we know it works, but we don't have direct evidence, right? Criminals don't call us and say, was gonna do a burglary, saw the cop, I left. But we know that that is an effective law enforcement technique for small town policing. Here's the rub. The rub is some police officers are confused on their role when it comes to proactive motor vehicle activity. And we have clarified that for them. You see, police officers have discretion in the enforcement that they do unless there's a legal lawful directive. For example, in the town of Old Saybrook, if you are drunk and you are driving, you get arrested for DUI. I have taken away the individual law enforcement officer's discretion when it comes to driving under the influence of drugs or alcohol. It's a non-starter. If you have drugs in your car, you get arrested in Old Saybrook. Non-starter. But all the other traffic violations, with the exception of unregistered or uninsured motor vehicles, officers have discretion on what the enforcement will be. So we don't require police officers to issue tickets or issue a summons or issue a written warning outside of unregistered motor vehicles and DUI and narcotics. But they don't have discretion in choosing not to stop a vehicle that's participating in violating motor vehicle law. That is their job. It's one of their jobs. And so we have made it very clear very recently on what the difference in discretion and job responsibility and expectation is. And I'm pleased to report that the sergeants have done a great job rolling that out. And we've seen an increase in proactive motor vehicle activity. It's something that I monitor every morning at 7 a.m. Bing, my report comes in on what happened in the last 24 hours. And I compare that to some of those charts that I showed the Board of Finance and some of the charts that you saw in our budget thing. So if someone was on proactive patrol for 6 hours and there's no proactive motor vehicle activity, something's missing. I'm not getting a full day's work for full day's pay. Now, there could be zero motor vehicle activity, but a police officer that's been on calls for service and writing reports and doing arrest warrants, that's fine. That's doing great police work. And so it's our job to make sure that they're meeting expectations, but hopefully you'll see an increase not only on your street, but all over town, and us making sure that we're slowing people down and keeping the town safe. It's our job to do so.
I have noticed more on Main Street. I have seen that, in regards to my street, and that's all really I can speak to. I mean, Maple is obviously bad as well, but I mean, there are a lot, which I didn't realize until the other day when I was stuck behind a school bus. We have a lot of kids on my road now, which we haven't had in years and years and years. 3, 4, 5 of the houses that used to be, just non-kids are all kids now. So, I mean, I know walkers and pedestrians are a big focus, and I understand that. However, we have high schoolers walking home on my road. It's just something to think about, to try to focus on. That's all.
Carl?
All set.
Okay, I just wanted to have a brief comment to the audience. I wanted to assure you that even though we're going to go into executive session for our last item, and as advertised, that's to be followed by adjournment, there is going to be nothing said in public except motion to adjourn. So don't feel that you're going to miss out if you go home. Thank you. With that, I invite a motion to enter into executive session to discuss the draft document from the ad hoc committee
Can you take a
on
quick break?
evaluation.
Just take a quick break.
So moved.
Is Carol staying there, or are you going
Yeah,
home?
no,
Yes, okay.
Is there a second?
I made the motion.
Oh,
Second.
so I should make it clear that only the commissioners will be present.
I'm going home, Mr. Chair.
And Larry, you can go home because everybody is going to sign
I'm
off.
gonna shut everybody down and that'll be it.
Okay.
Good, how are you?
And then, Joe, you'll be able to let Jen
Yes, I
know.
will.
What time we do?
What time and who makes the motion to enter?
Yeah, that'll be perfect.
May I use?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. I don't have enough.
Yes. All in favor of the motion to enter into executive session?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous.